battery die? Oh, okay, we good. All right, continuation from last week, part two. Our rules for this lesson and all the lessons, please keep your mic muted except when asking or answering a question. Use the mic to speak. There is a feature on the Zoom in the meeting room that is used to raise your hand if you have a question or statement. Also here in the assembly, if you have a question or statement, raise your hand and ask for one of the two mics. All questions, answers, and statements must be on the topic. You can only answer one time per question or statement. You will have 60 seconds to ask or answer a question. If you pass your 60-second window, Caleb will mute you. For those that are in the room, you also have 60 seconds to ask or answer a question. There are two mics that will be passed around that is to be used to ask or answer those questions. All statements in the room must be limited to 20 seconds. The microphones need to be used to share with others that may not be able to hear you online. These rules are due to time and recordings of the lessons. These are live teachings. We must give the morae enough time to complete the lesson. This will be mixed with discussion to help build one another up. Please, no one abuse the time. All right, the disclaimer. I want to take this time to explain that this lesson and the lessons thereafter are not based on any one individual, whether in this assembly locally or the assembly abroad. The lessons were not developed by myself alone. Yes, the Father has something, if not all, to do with them. If the lessons hit certain points that you feel or believe have something to do with you, then all praise to Yahuwah. Take that knowledge and apply the solution to your life. Take everything personal, but do not take offense and miss the message that is being given to help solidify your salvation. All right. Just a quick recap. So last week we spoke about tests and some of the purposes and characteristics of various tests. We realized that we are tested on things that we've been taught. We've realized tests don't last forever. At some point we will get a grade on those tests. We also talked about formative tests versus summative tests. And then we remembered that a formative test occurs during the learning process. You get multiple tests along the way as you learn. And it's for the learner's benefit, so that they can seek feedback during the process and implement the feedback that they get. The summative assessment is for when the trial is over, the learning's been done. You either passed or you failed at this point based on the grade, and there are consequences or rewards given at this point after the summative test. Everybody remember that part, right?
Somewhat, yeah.
Kind of, sort of, a little bit? All right, watch last week's lesson if it's totally new. All right. We also, what? If you didn't see it before, you wouldn't remember something you didn't know. All right. We also considered a few questions, right? So, questions such as how many seasons are there within the calendar, right? Answer was 4. Good job. All right. Can we often be tested through multiple seasons? Yes. We said the answer for that was yes, right? Then we said most of the times would the same test last through multiple years, however. And the answer for that was no, all right? If you're going through something that lasts more than a year, you fail the test somewhere along the way. You're not just being in this long testing cycle. All right, and I also asked y'all at the end to reflect on a few questions for yourselves, such as, am I currently being tested? If I'm being tested, what am I being tested on? Also, am I headed in the right direction and just facing little quizzes to see what I need to tweak? A little tweaking. Also, has my test come to an end, but my circumstances haven't changed? Have I found that myself in that situation? And also, is my test over and I failed? Which is what we want to talk about today. All right, so we looked at James 1:12-14. Blessed is the man who does endure trial or test. For when he has been proved, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Master has promised to those who love him. Let no one, when he is enticed, say, I am enticed by Elohim. For Elohim is not enticed by evil matters, and he entices no one. He entices how many people? No one. All right. Each one is enticed when he is drawn away by Yahuwah's own desires and trapped.
By his own.
Oh, I'm sorry, I read that wrong, right?
His own.
Each one is enticed when he is drawn away by his own desires and trapped. All right. So, question we asked last week, does he receive the crown if he fails the test? The answer was no, right? No passing, no crown for you. We all agreed last week if you fail the test, you don't receive the crown. I want to add something a little bit different this week. So, you may go without the crown, right? No crown for you. Or you can receive something else in place of that crown. You were trying to get a crown, Fail the test, you didn't get the crown. You may get something other than that. All right? Toe ring on the big toe, the big funky toe. Gotcha. All right. So again, James tells us again, no one can say they're enticed by Elohim. Don't start already. That is not in the Apocrypha. Relax. All right. Each one is enticed when he's drawn away by his own desires and trapped. A trial does not involve entrapment. This is we went over last week again. Note that it says he's drawn away by his own desires, not drawn away by the adversary. I want to continue to mention that. All right, so if our own actions, which were led by our own thoughts, our desires, our own inclinations, our own actions cause us to be trapped, then we have to accept the punishment for what we have done. We can't just say, the adversary made me do it. The adversary did not make you do it. Everybody, actually repeat after me. The adversary didn't make me do it.
Flip Wacer said, the devil made me do it. That's what I remember.
No. It wasn't the devil. He didn't make you do it.
Flip.
So then if we know that the adversary didn't do it, and we did it ourselves, or we did it to each other, then the solution still remains is then we still have to use the scriptures as a way of fixing or correcting what we have done to each other.
Right. But again, we have to fix it, and we also have to accept the punishment for what we did. If we never acknowledge the fact that we were involved in it, are we really going to repent and try to do different when we could just blame it on the adversary? If we don't acknowledge it, we're probably not going to do anything about it, right?
Take accountability.
There's a couple lessons about accountability. I don't remember when they were. All right. Each one is enticed when he's drawn away by his own desires. But the next verse says, when desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin. And sin, when it has been accomplished, brings forth death. Sometimes. Possibly. Maybe. Or does it just say what it says? Sin's going to lead you to death, right? And who caused us to sin? We cause ourselves to sin, yes. All right, let's look at Romans 2, 1-3, and then 5-6. You might have been deceived, but who fell for it? Or might have been you, right? You fell for the okie doke. All right, therefore, O man, you are without excuse. Everyone who judges, for in which you judge another, you condemn yourself, since you who judge practice the same wrongs, right? This isn't simply about you are wrong for judging someone. You're wrong because you're doing it yourself. You are practicing something. And we know that the judgment of Elohim is according to the truth against those who practice such wrongs. The judgment is coming because of what you do, all right? Do you think, oh man, you who judge those who practice such wrongs and doing those same things, do you think that you shall escape the judgment of Elohim? I heard a lot of people say no, but I think we must think that we're going to escape it. That's why we continue to do it. Or then when the judgment comes, we act surprised and don't know why we're there. I mean, let's be truthful with ourselves. You know, we've all been there before. It is what it is. Go ahead, Aki. What you want to add?
I mean, sometimes, you know, if Yah gives us mercy because we recognize it, you know, that's one thing. Well, sometimes he could have given you mercy and then you took that mercy for granted. Or you like, okay, well, I guess it's right. So let me keep on going. Then you get punished and you try to figure out, why am I getting punished for this if I didn't get punished for the last time? Mm-hmm. You know.
But even in your punishment, you can still receive mercy. I was talking to Ak, and he had an incident and caused some damage to the vehicle he had. And I said, well, you know, you could have died. That only having a damaged vehicle probably was mercy in your judgment, or could have been mercy in your judgment, right? It doesn't mean you weren't judged. It just was not as severe as it could have been. Just one example, right? But again, you're going to be judged for what you do and for your works. Can't escape it. We have to face the judgment of the wrong we practice in real time as we do them. Each test has its own grade. It has its own consequence for failing. The formative assessments are for the benefit of the students so that they know what needs to be fixed, what needs to change. Behavior changes when results are enforced in a timely manner. You're not going to go through something, mess up, and then judgment's going to come way down the line, right? If your child runs out in the street, you yell, I'm going to whoop your behind when I get home. But you don't actually snatch them out of the street, it's not going to work, right? Or will you immediately snatch them up and get them out of harm's way? Then you whoop them, right? But some of us are thinking that we aren't being judged because we haven't gotten home to get that whooping yet. But that's not the case. Some of us would be mistaken if that's the way we're thinking.
My mama kept all her promises.
Oh, the promise is coming. The promise is coming. But it's gonna come in a timely fashion. You're gonna get that whooping when you get home. Not next week, not next month, not 3 years down the line. That's not effective. And we know that our Father is going to be effective in what he does.
Let you forget.
All right, just another reminder. We all know this one. All right, if we sin purposely after we have received the knowledge of the truth, there no longer remains a slaughter offering for sins, but instead some fearsome anticipation of judgment and a fierce fire which is about to consume the opponents. So it's going to happen. The fire's coming down the line. Or is it about to do some consuming? All right. Let's look at that word fire, aish, right? It says it also has a direct, that's the Greek word they gave, but it also has a direct correlation to their Hebrew word, right? Such as in places like Genesis 15-17. When the sun had gone down and it was dark, behold, a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch passed between these pieces. Genesis 19:24. Then Yahuwah rained on Sodom and Gomorrah sulfur and fire from out of the heaven, right? From Yahuwah. From Yahuwah. All right. But please don't mistake this reference to quote unquote hellfire and deceive yourself into thinking that the judgment's far off. The judgment and the fire is coming soon. A lot of times we keep thinking, oh, that means I'll be judged at the end, but I got time to get it right. If that's your concept of this fire, you're going to mess it up, right? It's not speaking of this random thing, hellfire, that we all think is going to come at the end. That's not how this works. Some of us are in our judgment right now and don't even realize it because we're expecting this hellfire situation where the judgment and the fire is coming at the end far, far away. But he says it's about to consume it, right? Sometime soon, not like long, long down the road. But we trick ourselves. Now, there ultimately will be an ultimate judgment at the end, but you're going to face stuff along the way. Fools, because of their transgression, and because of their crookedness, were afflicted. They got afflicted because it was a test. That's why you're being afflicted. He's just testing me. I'll say that one more time in the microphone.
Because
I did.
He's trying to say the microphone.
Only Vic can talk loud enough to be heard without a microphone. The rest of us got to use a microphone.
because of their crookedness.
Exactly.
Okay, I got it up.
Again, it's their transgression and their crookedness. It leads to affliction. It's unavoidable. All right. Like snow in summer and rain. Say it again, I heard a comment from the front row.
Yeah, it's the same word for when we say afflict our beings on Yom Kippur or Day of Atonement. It's the same word, afflicted. Yeah, not eaten. Yeah, afflicted. Yep.
So they were starved. They were starving.
Nope. So they see, because of their transgressions, they were afflicted. So when we think about Yom Kippur, and we're trying to afflict, we're afflicting the things that are not right, that we want to get right.
Right. Like snow in summer and rain in harvest, so esteem is not fitting for a fool. As a bird wanders, as a swallow flies about, so a curse without cause does not come. We all know that, right? And a whip for a horse, a bridle for a donkey, and a rod for the fool's back. Notice it says a curse doesn't come without a cause. It says nothing about a test. Curses have nothing to do with the test. It's you caused your curse. You will be judged, graded, cursed, and corrected. Living outside of his will and expecting shalom is foolishness. just like snow in the summer and like rain in the harvest. It ain't happening. Get out of the mindset that tells you that you're constantly being given the same test. The test is over, and it's report card time. All right, this one's a longer one. Psalms 107, 21 to 39, and it's going to continue at 41 to 43. Let them give thanks to Yahuwah, his loving commitment, and his wonders to the children of men. And let them slaughter offerings of thanksgiving, and relate his works with rejoicing. Those who go down to the sea in ships, doing work in many waters, they see the works of Yahuwah and his wonders in the deep. For he commands and raises the stormy wind, which lifts up the waves of the sea. They go up to the heavens, they go down to the depths. Their being is melted because they're awesome.
Evil.
Oh, okay, so the melting is caused by their evil. We all see that, right? And then they continue. They celebrate and stagger like a drunkard, and all their wisdom is swallowed up. But then they cry out to Yahuwah in their distress, and he brings them to stay in their troubles. Okay, so they cry out, and he brings them out of their troubles. After they cry out, he caused the storm to be still, so that its waves were silent. And they rejoice because they are hushed, and he leads them to the haven of their delight. Let them give thanks to Yahuwah for his loving commitment and his wonders to the children of men. And let them exalt him in the assembly of the people and praise him in the seats of the elders. He makes rivers become a wilderness, and the fountains of water become a dry ground, and land of fruit becomes a salty desert for the evil of those who dwell in it. He makes a wilderness become a pool of water, and dry land become fountains of waters. And he causes the hungry to dwell there, and they build a city to settle in. And they sow fields and plant vineyards, and they make fruits of decrease. Oh, increase. Okay, so increase can come. He blesses them, and they increase greatly. He lets not their cattle diminish. But when they are diminished and brought low through oppression, evil, and sorrow, but he raises the poor up from affliction and makes their clans like a flock. The straight ones see and rejoice, and all unrighteousness shuts its mouth. And who is wise? Then let him observe these matters. Let them understand the loving commitments of Yahuwah. So, you do good, you cry out, you recognize, you can be rescued, correct?
Yeah.
If you don't cry out, you don't change, do you expect rescue? No. All right. Yahuwah is our rescuer, right? You can absolutely, you know what? Speak on that, please.
Oh, I got a mic. I'm gonna be obedient.
You can also cry out and not change. You know, you're in a miserable situation, you're uncomfortable. Of course, you don't like the situation, and you're crying out, you're crying out. As soon as you get a little relief, you're back at what you was doing before.
Mm-hmm. So. But how often do we do that, right? Think about sometimes when we'll do that, right? Oh, Yahuwah, rescue me from this test. Rescue me. Why am I going through this? Because you think you're still in the testing period. The test is over. You're in the judgment process, and you don't want to accept that. You don't want to make corrections, so you're crying out, but you're not changing. Dangerous place to be in. All right, Yahuwah is our rescuer. He's our provider. He's our deliverer, right? But if he never raises you up and you continue to be low, ask yourself why. What have you done to get yourself there? And what have you not done to keep yourself there? Even when we fail our test and have to face the wilderness, the hunger, the dry places, he doesn't desire to keep us there, right? But think about that school test examples we were given. You can fail a test and not fail for the whole quarter. You can botch a semester and still pass for the year. But after you realize that you're past the testing stage and you bomb the exam, you still can recover and move forward. But if you still think that you're in the middle of the test, you won't get out of the period that you're actually in. You have to recognize when you're being judged. Tests do not last forever. What's on your mind?
What I was thinking about is once the Father renders the judgment, and let's say it's over, and they're still going through things, what is that? You see, so at the end of the day, if you fail the test or you get judged on something, once the judgment is over, why are they still going through? Why are they still having problems once Yah says, I'm done with it?
Right.
So well, I don't want to answer my own question.
Well, some of it, again, I don't know exactly what you're going to end up touching on, but some of it is the judgment piece is over, but we're the reason we're still stuck. Because we're not making the changes we need to make. We're not doing the things that we're supposed to do. We're not accepting it, and we're not doing the moving forward part. He's not going to move us. He's not going to move us forward. We have to move ourselves. Again, you happening to life, or is life happening to you? You have to take accountability and take actions along the process. There's still things you have to walk out, like you like to say all the time. Got to walk it out.
Right. So I was going to say that. So now, like as you stated, it is you, but you keep putting it on Yah, for an example. Well, because Yah loves his children and he's merciful, sometimes he then uses brothers and sisters to help you. That's too close. They help you see that it is you.
Right.
Even when you still think it's Yah, and your brother or your sister says, but it's over.
Right.
Or Yah shared me a word, and he's telling you you're doing this to yourself.
Right.
Now it's up to them to believe it, but at the end of the day, that's where it ends.
Right.
So now it's your choice if you want to stay there or take the advice, because then the Torah then starts to talk about when you have a council, and if you don't listen to the council, then it's on you.
Right. I mean, let's be honest. Some people like staying there. Pigs like mud. They'll just wallow in it all day if you let them. Some people like being in there. Oh, woe is me situation. The victim of their own circumstances. But think about it. Think about, let's just use a practical example. You got somebody that's in need, right? Because that's the judgment they were in. And people come to your rescue. Well, eventually you get used to people coming to your rescue. Why am I going to get out and go do what I got to do when it's easy for me to just say, I'm going through this test, oh, this mercy me. And people keep coming to pour into you, and you don't do no effort yourself. You're going to stay there. But that doesn't mean you're in the judgment anymore. You're just choosing not to move forward. All right. You spurned my counsel. Right. But just like he was saying, brothers come to you and speak into you and tell you, reveal things to you, right, on how to make your situation better. But then you spurned all my counsel. Remember, those formative tests were your time to seek counsel, and not just seek the counsel, but to actually make the corrections. And you would not yield to my reproof. So guess what happens? Let me laugh at your calamity. I'm about to enjoy giving you this F with the largest red Sharpie that I can find. I went over this a couple lessons ago. Mock when your dread comes. When your dread comes like a storm and your calamity comes like a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you, let them then call on me, but I answer not. I've already put you through the judgment. Whatever you're going through now is on you. Why you keep calling on me? Do what you got to do and fix yourself. Fix the situation. Take ownership of what you've done and how you have to be involved in the fixing the process. It says, let them call on me, but I answer not. Let them seek me, but not find me, because they hated knowledge. And knowledge is going to come from that counsel. We keep waiting to hear from on high when he sent, like he said, brothers and sisters to tell you, but you didn't want to hear that. You did not choose the fear of Yahuwah. They did not accept my counsel. They despised all my reproof. Therefore, let them eat the fruit of their own way and be filled with their own counsels. For the turning away of the simple kills them, and the complacency of fools destroys them. I'm not doing nothing. I'd rather just stay here and woe is me and let y'all help me out. Because it would take effort on my part to actually change the situation myself. Who would want to do that? But whoever listens to me dwells safely and is at ease from the dread of evil. Those that recognize they were in the testing stage and sought counsel, or those who learned the lessons and passed the test, right? You got to understand the situation you're in and then recognize and act accordingly. I'm going to say this is Travis and not Essence. Go ahead, Travis.
Yeah. This is Abba talking, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is. Oh, that was my question. That's it.
Okay. In either case, oh, so who's that? I can't see. Now, Mana, what you got?
Shalom, Mari. I was really, thinking about what you're saying here, and it's like the father is he says he knows that the plans that he has for us, that he wants us to prosper, and so after the test and everything is over, and we sought counsel, and all this kind of stuff, and the person still chooses to stay in this negative mindset, then that person cannot know what the father has planned for them, because they stay in that negative mindset, so that therefore they cannot move forward. Instead of saying, okay, I did this, I did that, and I'm going to move forward, I'm going to accept my punishment and move on to the next task at hand. Correct?
50-50.
Take out.
People can absolutely know what the plans are. That don't mean they're going to follow it. That don't mean they're going to put in their part of the work. So you can know the plan, but you may not understand what you have to do it. Or you can say, he has plans to prosper me. It's just going to fall in my lap and not want to actually do the work. So just because you know he has a plan for you, or you know what the plan is, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to actually do your part in getting it. So, but yes, he does desire that for us, but we still have to play our part. And simply
Yeah, I
knowing
guess what I'm
the
saying is,
outcome. Just hold on, I got you. Come back. Simply knowing the outcome doesn't mean that you're going to do the steps that you got to do to get that outcome.
okay, tell that, Mari, I got you. I understand. But we have to do our part too in order to, go forward. After the lessons and everything that has been learned, we got to do our part too and move forward and not stay in that negative mindset. I think that's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Right on. We're tracking. We got you. We're in agreement. All right. So in either case, the test doesn't last forever. The test is over, and now you're in the cafeteria eating the fruits of your deeds. You got to move from place to place. Hey, I didn't say it was cafeteria food. It may not be that good, right? You live out the results of what you did or did not do. Again, think of the school example. Consider the number of days you're actually being taught or instructed versus the number of days you actually take a test. Life is not this series of tests day after day after day after day, tests brought by the Father every single time. Life in and of itself is a test, correct? But not every day is he going to put something in front of you and say, I wonder what you're going to do here. It's not how he works. All right, Ecclesiastes 12:11-14. The words of the wise are like goads, and as nails driven by the masters of collections, they were given by one shepherd. And besides these, my son, be warned, the making of many books has no end, and much study is a wearying of the flesh. Let us hear the conclusion of the entire matter. Fear Elohim and guard his commands, for this applies to all mankind. For Elohim shall bring every work into right ruling, including all that is hidden, whether good or whether evil. So let me pause here. 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the matter. Fear Elohim and guard his commands, for this applies to all mankind. Is that something that we don't know? Is that something that we have to be tested on? So if we know that we're to guard his commands and then we don't and face the consequence, was that a test? Or did we just not do what we were supposed to do?
It's disobedience.
There's a difference between disobedience and being tested. Absolutely. So I want us to get out of this mindset that every time we're going through something, oh, I'm just in a test. Oh, I failed the test. No, sometimes you're just eating the fruit that you sowed, right? All right. Elohim will bring every work in the right ruling, including all that is hidden, whether good or whether evil. It's easy for us to tell others that what we're going through is just a test. Right? It's even easier to tell ourselves that. But Elohim knows the truth, and Yahuwah will reveal it to you. Eventually, it will be revealed to others as well. Remember the lessons on judgment. Remember that when others are being judged, we have to avoid rescuing them, or we put ourselves in danger of that judgment coming upon us. So also consider that Elohim is just, right? He isn't going to let us blindly put ourselves in harm's way just because we have a compassionate heart. We're going to recognize the judgment that's on you. So you can try to act like you're not going through this thing. You can try to act like you're not in the judgment phase. Or even if you don't see it, others are going to see it. And they're going to bring it to your knowledge and say, hey, I recognize what you're going through. This is where you are. They're not just going to keep placating you over and over and over and over and over and let you stay there. It's just not going to happen. All right. So actions have consequences, and the adversary controls our actions. Oh, okay. I'm just going to keep saying it till we eventually believe it. All right. We are our own adversary far too many times. All right. So we sway our consequences. Every work shall be brought to right ruling or judgment, and every work will have an outcome. You reap what you sow. It's just the way he created it. All right. So as we kind of come to a close here, let's consider some tests that we have may taken and failed and how they might look. Now, this is not an exhaustive list, so please chime in with your input. I got you. Save that question for the end, though. One test that we have failed is a test of unforgiveness. One thing I wanted to point out here. We all know that we don't have this unlimited window to forgive, right? We all think that it's tomorrow or atonement's a couple months down the line, and then this year's atonement comes. And we all show up and we all afflict ourselves. But we ain't really forgive that person. Next atonement comes. We still ain't get it right. But here's where we slip up. The broader view to look at, besides just waiting till atonement to get it right with your brother or sister, I think many of us have gotten through that point. We might wait till the day before, but eventually we have a pretty good angle at getting amongst each other, right? But there are other areas that we still have unforgiveness in our hearts. Some of us are holding grudges against family, exes, old bosses or old coworkers. They don't give two rips about the feast day, so we kind of write them off. But we never deal with that unforgiveness. We may not try to go back and restore that relationship, but we still have that unforgiveness in our own hearts. And that's on us to get rid of. We can't be like, well, I made it right with Lamont. I made it right with this person, so I'm good for atonement. You still have that unforgiveness in your heart towards others. You have to make that right. Whether I don't have my ex's phone numbers, right? I can't reach out to them, but I don't have to harbor that unforgiveness in my heart. But I think a lot of us, we get so focused on where we are amongst each other that we still aren't tapping into all the other places that we could be harboring things. Good, Aki.
So how would the person know if they have been unforgiven? They haven't forgiven them. They're cordial with them. They talk, they communicate with them, they smile at them. How would they know that that they didn't forgive them? That's A. And B is, how would the other person know? Or a way.
I don't really know.
I'll share the other way.
Yeah.
So the other way, the first one you're going to say.
Hold on, microphone.
What I want to know is, you're asking how do I know that I have unforgiveness towards them?
Mm-hmm.
Some believe they did because they remember it.
Mm-hmm.
Then sometimes certain things can
Trigger it, yeah.
bring it back. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the answer, right? I mean, but honestly, if I know that I thought I forgave my brother, right? And then all of a sudden he does something that triggers or reminds me of what he did. I say, I knew it. That joker still. You know what I'm saying? And then so my unforgiveness is back up. My mindset towards it is still there. So yeah, that's when I know that, okay, I may have not really forgiven him or see him in a new light. I'm still holding out for that little possibility they got something. I just know it. And I'm just waiting to say, there it is, right there. I knew it, you know.
So, because yeah, tell me. Oh, okay. So the other part of it is when you believe they did, but you're still holding on to a piece that you really you want them. You want to believe that they forgave, but there's still a part of you that don't believe that, and so you're just waiting for that thing. That means you didn't fully pardon it.
Right.
Now, the flip side of it is the other person's going to know, because if you keep bringing it up,
Right.
that's the problem. Why I say that is because just like when we ask the Father to forgive us our sins, and you thought as far as the east to the west, sea of
Forgetfulness.
forgetfulness, that it would be remembered
No more.
no more. So if that's true, why do we still keep bringing it up? But we want our Creator not to bring it. I don't even want you to remember it.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So we have to think. The other person's gonna be thinking like, well, maybe they didn't because they keep bringing it up.
Right.
What did I do wrong?
Right.
So I leave it there.
I joke all the time. Some half the time I'm joking. Sometimes I'm not joking about my trust issues. Right. One way that you're going to know that you haven't really forgiven that person is your inability to put that guard down. You're always going to come up to them guarded, based on an offense from before. You're not willing to put yourself at risk. If I've truly forgiven you, then I'm not looking at you as somebody that's going to harm me because I've gotten past the harm you've caused. But if I find myself not being able to get there, then that's one way that you would know that you haven't really forgiven that person. Yeah? Did you have a? No, I was you asked him. Okay.
I mean, if you want to elaborate.
All right. We got a hand in the room. Hold on a second. Comment.
It's actually a comment. Caleb and I were talking earlier today, so I'm gonna try to make this real quick. We were talking earlier today, and we were just talking about how like Hebrew community, how they respond to each other. And I'm like, well, why do they respond to each other? He was like, well, this is how they respond. You know how Caleb does. So I'm like, okay. We started talking about, I started talking about the reasons why people can respond very mean and angrily is because hurt people. So if you have this hard wall guard, the meanest person is usually trying so much to protect something within themselves. Because years ago, they felt this little, somebody did something to them this little, and especially when they were young. So once they grow older, they become this hardcore person. The meanest women are usually the easiest to hurt. So when I look at, are you holding a grudge against family, exes, bosses, coworkers? Somewhere that person could have hurt you in some capacity, and now it's developed something inside of you, and you're responding to other people in that way. So that can be also a sign as well.
Absolutely. Javier?
Shalom. I was actually just thinking because I had just recently it was put on my heart to like forgive some people that like I felt had really hurt me and did me, pretty wrong last year. And I learned that forgiveness is really just freeing that person from judgment, freeing them from whatever they did based on the past. And I think that's how you can truly know that, like, you've moved on. You're no longer holding, like you said, like bringing it up, or you're no longer judging them based on what they did to you in the past. And that's something that I just went through like pretty recently where I also had to say some apologies, but I also and I said apologies, but I was never expecting anything in return. I just wanted to really like kind of free myself from that. So I don't have.
All right, Todd, I appreciate you sharing. You just went a little bit over your time, but we got the overall message, what you wanted to say, I believe. Todd, for sharing. And Kanisha, I think I saw your hand.
Soda. I lowered it, but I just wanted to land back with the Koti that was just speaking. Yeah, so that's kind of how I look at it as well, is once you have that mindset of when you hold someone to the unforgiveness, when you go before the Father to pour out your heart to him or to talk to him, um, those things should, when you start thinking of it as, if I, like she said, if I don't forgive, if I judge in this way that person, then who am I to come in and expect a different type of judgment towards my faults and so when you look at it like that, it does help you to release those things easier. But also, is it wrong? I have a question. Is it wrong to have moments where you thought you forgave someone and then you trigger and you're like, oh man, see, that's what, and then in those moments, as you're getting ready to say something or have that tinge in your heart,
You would I'm gonna Lamar, something I'm gonna say to your question. You still may have moments where you recognize that you haven't forgiven them, but you don't just continue to let those moments keep coming up. When you realize that moment, that's when you have to say, "Oh, I still have work to do," and you have to do the work.
All right. So the other thing is, be careful don't be going through this unforgiveness process because Yah says do it, I'm just doing it. And your heart is far from it.
You'll never get true forgiveness that way.
You're only doing it just because of the letter of the law. He told me to do it. That's what it is. Check. But you still got that feeling. That's not good.
Yep, that's not even true forgiveness. But that's probably 50% of what we do, if we're honest with ourselves. Go ahead, Ima.
Okay, I hear what everybody's saying. Sometimes the people that you love will hurt you.
Those ones that hurt
And that's when, right, that is when it hurt the most. No matter how you try and you say, okay, I'm going to take it in this, okay, I don't have to take it to heart, but inside they hurt you because we say, how can someone who say they love you hurt you? Not hearing what, and that hurts. And it takes you a little longer to get over that part to make amends because you didn't expect that.
Yeah, nobody said it was easy, but nobody said that we don't have to do it. And we're not going to face the consequences of that lack of forgiveness. But yeah, at no point did anybody say this was easy. I would never tell you that much. All right. Another test that we may have perhaps taken and failed was the lack of humility. For an example, you guys can give others. You're too proud to seek or accept help, and now your struggle continues longer than need be. How many of us have ever found ourselves in that place? Y'all lying. Y'all way too quiet. Y'all know y'all lying. Yeah, y'all don't have the microphones on, but yeah, they were saying yeah. That's what they say anyway. All right. Go ahead, Aki. I thought you were reaching for the mic.
Oh, no, I'm just saying, well, how are they going to overcome it if they know that's let me be obedient first.
Yes. We got a hand in the front. Go ahead.
Okay, so how do you overcome that? If you know to do it and you still don't do it, how do you overcome that?
I mean, eventually you're going to get tired of the consequences, you would think. But I don't know. I have no answer for why people recognize it but won't make the change. I think that's part of why we're doing this, because we don't recognize it for what it is, that we still think, oh, Yahuwah's testing me, it was just a test. And since Yahuwah did it all, I think sometimes we get stuck in this mindset where it's just us and Yahuwah's on my left, adversary's on the right. And they're just these two people playing chess. He makes a move, then the other one makes a move. And we're expecting them to do all the work when we're moving ourselves across the board. That's why it's so easy to recognize stuff, but it's so much harder to actually do the work. But that's not how life is set up. It's not about this Yahuwah influencing me this way, adversary influencing the other, and I'm just this little puppet being spun around. You have to put in the work. When you realize it, you have to do something about it. Or y'all just like judgment and fire. I don't know. Laziness. You just won't put in the work to change the situation. For example, you make one attempt and quit. Say you're having a situation with the job, and everything in you and the answer to your prayers is that you need to leave the job you're at for whatever reason. It's not paying enough. It's causing you stress. You can't observe the feast days. Whatever the reason is, you know that you're being led to leave the job. So you go on the website, you find your dream job, you apply, you don't get the job. Now you spend the next 6 years on that same job you know you're supposed to leave because one job turned you down and you didn't want to go through the work and the process of actually finding a new place of employment. It ain't easy all the time. To change the situation isn't going to be the snap of a finger, but you got to put in the work. And a lot of us just don't want to put in the work, so we just stay there. Go ahead, Keith.
All right, so other examples of laziness, since, no one's really engaging in that part. So
None of us are lazy. We're talking about.
suppose you know you got to do something. It's on. Oh, I don't get that close. Let me turn sideways. All right, so one of the other ways is if you know you're supposed to do something, why do you wait
Till last minute.
either last minute or you wait for the other person? That's laziness. If you know you need to do something, or if Yah has put something on your heart and you just decide to delay it and then you forget,
Right.
and you say, oh, I remember something. That's another form of laziness. The minute it's on your heart to do something, just do it. If you know something is wrong and it has to be right, after you get your thoughts together, I'm not saying you know you got to do it right away, but you still got to be in the right mind when you do it.
Correct.
So, but once you know that, stop waiting for the other person, unless that other person needs time, and then you get right with it.
Say the mic.
I don't want to be.
Sometimes they don't want to be the bigger person.
I don't want to be the
Yeah.
It's the laziness.
But again, there's a consequence for your action. So when it comes, don't be mad.
That's the one.
All right.
The one. Talk about it.
Sometimes we just can't be trusted with the little things.
Yeah.
We get frustrated when we don't get what we consider to be better opportunities. I should be at this level. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. But you didn't handle the little responsibility that we tried to give you.
Oh my.
You're not going to get bigger and better if you can't handle little things, right? Sorry. So let's talk about this. Give me some examples. Yahusha and Dawood?
Yeah, I got a quick question because Amoria, if you can answer this. I know when we were in the world that a lot of people didn't want to say that they had mental health issues, right? So in the walk, how do we identify that? Because I know that's a big problem. Sometimes we don't want to face the facts that we got something going on mentally. What do we call that in the walk?
The same thing you call it outside the walk. Mental health is mental health.
Is that what it is, right?
Bipolar is bipolar. Schizophrenic, still same thing.
Okay. All right. And how do we address that in the scriptures? And how, if someone's dealing with a mental health issue?
Go ahead. We talking the same time. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, first, you make sure they're taking their medicine. So outside of the medicine, you still have a duty to treat them a certain way. If I know someone has some type of disability or an ailment of some sort, I adjust myself to make it comfortable for that particular person. But outside of that, you still keep Torah towards them. But as far as what they have to do, they know that they either have to seek help or whatever help that was given to them, they got to maintain their prescription or counsel or a combination to better themselves. But but as far as you personally, you still have to maintain a certain standard with them.
You're the believer and you're the one with the mental health issue. You have to be upfront about it. If you know that you have some issues with bipolarism and you think that people are just supposed to, know it and deal with it the way you expect them to when they have no clue what's going on, you could just be totally out of character and be in the middle of an episode and we would never know. What if someone's just getting to know you, but they know you when you're on the other end of the meter? They may be thinking that's how you are. Well, you just may be in the middle of an episode. You have to be upfront. Now, does that mean that you just go, hi, I'm Mikael, I'm bipolar? Like, that's not exactly how you do it, but you have an obligation that people that you're in fellowship with to let them know what you're dealing with. And we, like Maury said, have an obligation to not hold that against you, not treat you the wrong way. You have to trust us that we're going to guard and protect that and be honorable to that. I'm sorry, I saw a hand. Go ahead, sis. No, she got one.
And then also, just going back, well, let me stay with the thought. So as far as mental health and, being in this walk, I tell people, you know, sometimes Israel just has an issue with being patient. And I remember telling a sister that before, and they were wrong. They had come at me about something because they thought I interrupted somebody. And I was like, you know, if we could just be patient. And the sister said, you know what, Sienna, you're right. You know, we have to be patient. The scriptures say that we have to have that spirit. But anyway, going back to, what's this one here? I forgot. I had a good point, and now I have noodle brain. I forgot, but that's it. Just patience. That'll trump any of this. Oh, does this person have that or that? You know, people will tell you. You know what I mean? But at the same time, if we have patience or just humility and just being just basically compassionate, you know, the things that we're supposed to have, then that would trump everything else. Because people will tell you, you know, like I'm exhausted. So I'm sounding like this wacky, but I'm really exhausted. And this just, you know, cut me off.
And I do want to say, and I think this is kind of the tenor of Aki's question. Hold on, turn it off for a second. Turn it off for a second. All right, so I appreciate it. I want to the tenor of Aki's question, just because you recognize who Yahuwah is and you want to keep his feast days and you want to please him doesn't mean that your issues just go away. So you can be in this walk and still have mental health issues, the same ones you had going in. So they don't just suddenly go away, and you shouldn't expect them to just go away and say, oh, well, I don't need to deal with the treatment plan, like you said, just because, you know, I know the truth now. That's not how that works. Go ahead, Aki.
Okay, and also, I mean, I can tell you now, nothing to do. We tested. Okay. So also, and that's true, what the sister was sharing, you know, that we still should maintain a certain way towards a person, right? The thing is, though, but if they have a condition that they need to be extra or careful with, then they should know that as well, because they're going to give that person more than what they normally would to someone else that did not.
Right.
You know, just so that they can, because some people might need to get more time to get their thought out, for an example, versus some don't, you know. But the last part you said, the example, let's talk about it. So are we there?
Yeah, we're talking about it.
Okay. Oh, okay, awesome. So, well, I saw some other stuff. We were still talking about the humility part. All right.
Yeah.
So, if you say trust with the little things, little things be giving people tasks to do, and if they're not good with those tasks or they fail the task, then that sometimes creates this frustration. You know, and it says, when you do that, it says, what you consider to be better opportunities. So sometimes people feel like, I don't want to do no more because you failed that one task or that second task. So in that example, say, you know, so we would say, okay, well, give me some time to get over this task, this thing that you failed. But if they keep doing it, then you got to say at some point, what?
Got to move on. Yeah.
I turned off because I wanted to try to get past my 60-second limit.
Oh, he was coming for you. He was.
I'm on it. I told you. I got an internal 60-second clock. 1,001.
All right, so we can all be trusted with the little things. We have no problems with that. All right. So this is my closing request. So let's examine ourselves and our situations and recognize the test that we have failed and change our hearts, right? Because if we don't do that and we can't recognize it, then we're not going to be in a better situation. And also, I want us to recognize and learn the lessons that Yahuwah is currently teaching us so that when the test comes, we pass it, all right? That's my request. And sister in the back, you had a question. Caleb has a question. Yes, you have, I don't do sign language. Got talking to Mike.
I wanted to know what we were supposed to do with this here paper.
Oh, you did it already.
Oh, we did? That was it? Just, okay.
Yep. Yep. You prepared for the test, and all week you've been worried about the test that don't exist, which is the whole point of the lesson. It ain't no test. It's not a test. We invent tests. We're supposed to prepare at all times, right? I'll only ask you to prepare for a test. I didn't say you're going to take one. I said prepare. I told you how to prepare, just like the Torah tells us how to prepare. But then a lot of times we keep telling ourselves, I'm in the test, I'm in the test, I'm in the test. I'm prepared, I'm in the test. He's testing me. And it ain't a test at all. Gotcha. All right. Any questions, thoughts, or comments besides cussing at me for making y'all full paper? What you got, Aki?
Shalom. I just wanted to help those that are listening with when you talk about the word forgiveness. And if you look at the word forgiveness, you see it has a prefix on it. It says, when you split it up, it's for, then on the other, and the suffix is give. So, you know, you gotta, if you look at the word from that perspective, when you're dealing with forgiveness, you have to look at it from how the Father forgives us. When the Father forgives us, he gives us his love, he gives us his mercy, and he gives us his grace for us to get what we have offended, get it correct. And it's the same thing when somebody offends us. We have to forgive them just like the Father forgives us. We got to give them love, we got to give them mercy, we have to give them grace. So forgiveness benefits us from the perspective of bringing out our spirit, you know, the set apart spirit in us. And it's also to show people that has offended us, you know, the effect of the set apart spirit that's operating in us. Because all things that we do, we have to always be mindful that we're walking in the spirit and we're not walking in our flesh. Now, that doesn't mean all the time you have to let somebody walk over you. Sometimes we have to learn how just to deal with brothers and sisters that's in the walk, and sometimes that our family members that's outside the walk. But it's all on us and what we're demonstrating, because we are ambassadors of the Most High. So we always have to take on these attributes to demonstrate to the world who the Father is through us. And that's just a small suggestion on how to deal with forgiveness from that perspective. And I yield.
Yeah, Toda. We got one in the room.
A comment. So the comment is about, I want to say maybe about 17 years ago. I was in a pretty bad situation, right? Pretty bad situation in the home, pretty bad situation. And I heard very clearly the Father tell me to stay up all night and pray. And I'm like, what was pray all night for? What am I going to pray about? Didn't know. So I started praying. And as I started praying, I remember it was like 10 o'clock. It was around 10. And I started literally going through what hit my mind was everything that you did wrong, everything people told you not to do, but you did it. Admit it all. And so for 4 hours, I went for years and went down the line, and everything that I had done wrong, I said it up until that point. And then I had nothing else to say, and I heard go to bed. And the change in that situation actually came once I admitted everything I did wrong. And like I said, the 3 people who told me, I didn't listen to, and I did it anyway. Once I admitted it all, it changed. And it didn't change right away. It actually took about 5 years for the situation to completely change.
Well, Toda, yeah, you got to admit your wrongdoing and recognize what's going on. You're not going to definitely see any changes. Any other questions, thoughts, or comments? Going once, going twice. Favorite slide. I yield. All right, prepare your hearts and minds. And Sharad Vic is going to close us out in prayer.
All right, let us stand. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Okay, all right, no Hebrew class. All right. All right, all hearts and minds are clear. Hallelujah. Baruch Hashem Yahuwah Eloheinu. Todah Rabbah, Most High Yah, through Hamashiach Yahusha, we come before you yet again with gratitude and thanksgiving for your word that has been shared by your servant, who has reminded us our charge to continually look within, to address the matters that have separated us, to address the matters of laziness and remembering where you saw us in our wrong, and that we came to you asking for forgiveness, and that you're seeing all our faults, not a little, but all our faults, that we asked and you heard. And that in the same way, when with dealing with one another, that we should have the same compassion in which you exhibited to us. Because, Father, you could have exposed us in our mess, but you didn't. And we are grateful. But we are reminded that we have this charge to emulate your characteristics of forgiveness, and that we are to be a light to others. And so thus we must lead by example. And so, Abba, we thank you, and that we remember that in our Master's prayer, that the ask is that you forgive us as we forgive those who trespass against us. And so, Abba, we thank you, and that we are grateful for your patience with us, for you chastise those whom you love. And thus, Abba, we desire to be loved by you. And so we praise you today and thank you for this lesson that has been shared. We thank you yet again for the assembly of your people and the purpose of praising you and seeking your understanding as we walk out this faith. We thank you, Abba, for those who have joined us in person and online, those who may have heard the word for the first time. We rejoice for what may happen in their lives, the transformation in heart, mind, and spirit. We thank you. We humbly ask for your covering and keeping, your hedge of protection and provision for your people where they may be. We pray abundance of shalom be in their homes and along their way. We are thankful for the meal that has been prepared and the fellowship to take place. And as we depart, Abba, continue to keep your people. And we ask with belief in your power, your might, through HaMashiach Yahusha. Hallel to Yahuwah. Amen. If you are interested in helping the assembly to improve the sound quality of the lessons and praise, feel free to contribute in your own way to the audio fund, all right? And hallelujah.
Yeah, it's just that the mics, yeah, we had, how many we had? 10. We had 10, we're down to 3.